Hey there folks, Fishbat here with another Fishbat battle report. Kings of War once again. Ogres versus Brotherhood, 2000 points. And it is a classic kill scenario. Very excited to be playing my first game against the Brotherhood here, because I like that whole nightly theme. I haven't seen what they've been able to put on the board before, so it'll be interesting to really hit the ground running against this army. If you haven't seen my videos before, this is the notations I use to help you keep up with what's happening in all the action. So pause if you need to. Alright, let's look at some of these ogres that I am bringing to the table here. Starting off with a horde of warriors, and I've given them the Brew of Haste to give them an extra inch of movement. These are just a very nice all-round unit, 3 to hit, defense 5, plenty of attacks, decent nerve. All the ogres generally have a low nerve, but these guys are at least decent, and of course crushing strength 1, always nice. And then a regiment of warriors with crushing strength 2, no shields, they've got the two-handed weapons there. And then a second unit of the same. Then I've got a unit of shooters, the long-range fire support, essentially a big war machine that can punch back. I've heard very good things about bringing a horde of these guys, but for now, just using a regiment. Now then, a regiment of boomers. These are the runners and gunners of the army, so they're going to be the mobile fire support. Also very good at picking off heroes because they've got a breath attack. Then we've got a regiment of berserker braves, lots of attacks for a lower defense. Very good at carving stuff up. And a second unit. I've got horde highlighted there, but no, this is a regiment. And I've got the blade of slashing just because I needed to spend 5 points. Then I've got to go with those berserkers, the warlock, and I've given him fireball so he can run around and burn stuff. Because that sounds fun, doesn't it? An army standard to keep that morale up. Very important that we don't have anything routing too early. Red Goblin Blaster. This guy is just fun. Roll him up, go boom, kill a bunch of stuff. Don't leave home without it. A giant, big stompy guy. He's also got a fairly narrow frontage for the amount of attacks he has. So I find that every single game this guy is useful. And now the best thing that I've brought. I'm very happy to have finally played this guy because I've painted him up, hadn't put him on the board before, but I've got Grokagamok. Now if you can look at his rules there, he has 7 attacks hitting on 3s, with crushing strength 3, and each melee attack has blast D3, so he can just put out a withering amount of damage. So really looking forward to getting him on the board this game. And unpictured, I've got 2 units of Red Goblin Scouts and troops. Didn't actually have any models painted up, so I've just used a couple of proxies, which you will certainly see because they look pretty awful, but they're functional. And that's 2,000 points. Now the Brotherhood army, which I had the good fortune of playing against. Starting off with some villain siege artillery. 80 points for some d6 plus 2 damage with indirect fire. Moving along, we have an exemplar hunter, who's just a hero on a horse who's got crushing strength 2. Then the Order of Redemption. These guys are knights, but they're better. They've got a couple more attacks. They've got headstrong. They're inspiring. They've got regeneration 5+ as well. So they need to be hit and killed all in one big go. You don't want to stretch out a fight with them because they'll regenerate all the damage. And they've also got the Brew of Strength, so they are hitting extra hard. Then moving on, we have some villain martyrs, who also have regeneration, but only on a 6+, and they do not waver. Then we have a big horde of Order of the Forsaken with the Pipes of Terror, a horde of flying cavalry, which very similar to the infamous Dracon Riders the elves have. These guys just put out a ton of damage and are incredibly maneuverable. So even if a unit like this doesn't get in and punch hard, it still creates a hassle for me because of the sheer threat range it has. I need to change everything I do to limit the space this unit can go, so it isn't getting rear charges and flank charges. Although with the damage it does, even a front charge is dangerous, so this unit just gives me problems. Moving along, we have 2 units of villain spearmen, a horde and a regiment. a fellow called the Exemplar Adjutant, who shall henceforth be known as the Standard Bearer because that's easier to say. Then we have some Villain Siege Artillery once again, which will also be a pain in the neck. Or Order of Redemption Cavalry once more, and these ones have Potion of the Caterpillar so that they can ignore terrain. Really, that Potion of the Caterpillar is an amazing magic item. If you have cavalry in your army, you almost definitely have to give one of those units Potion of the Caterpillar. Then you have the Devoted, which is the spellcaster for the Brotherhood, up on that horse there. And in front of the Order of Redemption we have some Villain Reconnaisseurs? Is that how you say it? Reconnaisseurs? Villain Scouts, that's what they are. We'll call them Scouts. And then we also have a unit of Swain's Villain Rangers. Contrary to what I thought, I thought these were just a regular throwaway unit of rubbish archers, but these guys are actually pretty good. 10 attacks, hitting on a 4 ranged, and a 4 for melee. 13-15 nerve, inspiring to other villains. Piercing 1, stealthy, vanguard, elite. That's a pretty darn good archer unit. Very small footprint as well. Alright, so we've already seen my army, but I thought I might as well show the deployment. Down behind a forest I've got my Red Goblin Blaster hidden away, looking to respond to anything that wants to get too close. And Giant in the forest as well. He doesn't mind being there because he has Strider, special rule. Then the Boomers, and you can see over there I've got those Red Goblin Scouts being represented by just a bit of MDF with a couple of Chaos Warhounds on it. Then 2 regiments of 2-handed weapon warriors, the Army Stand Barrier and the Bearer, that's better, and the Warrior Horde. On the other side of the house we have the 2 Berserker regiments with the Warlock in tow to get the benefit from being nearby. We've got the Red Goblin Scout troop there as well, and we've got the Shooter regiment up the back to give some fire support. We also have Grok there in the second line so that he can get stuck in and punch things really hard. So there's just another nice shot of everything lined up. And a pretty picture of the Brotherhood army. Which, can I just say, this is a gorgeous army. Everything about it is just so nicely painted. You've got the decals on all of the shields, that lovely green, white and black colour scheme. Everything is just so neat and crisp. Hopefully you can see from the photos that it's really just a splendid army to look at. Anyway, so Brotherhood wins first turn. Let's see what they do. First things first, everything advances. The Order of the Forsaken still hide behind the rocks there. They're going to hold off a turn or two before they decide to commit themselves to some movement. But in general it's an advance on the side. And on the other side it's an advance as well. Nothing dramatic. We have some shooting already. One of those siege artillery fires and does 3 damage to the goblins. The damsel shoots them as well, but she misses. They suffer 3 damage, but surprisingly they hold. However, the other war machine hits the goblins and does 4 damage, and they rout, which is unfortunate because I wanted some chaff against those really nasty cavalry I had in front of me. In addition, Swain's bowmen actually managed to get close enough. They have a shot lined up against that Red Goblin Blaster, and they do a point of damage, but against all odds it does hold. Good times. So then, turn 1 for the Ogres. General advance. Those red goblins that survived, they are now going to get stuck into combat against those knights. I don't expect them to do anything significant, because their job is just to deprive them of their Thunderous Charge bonus. But they do 2 damage, which is something nice. I move my Red Goblin Blaster out of the way. Boomers and Giant go further into the forest. I've got my Warrior Horde on the left. They've moved up, but they have to be really careful because they've got 3 units in front of them. 2 of spears, and you can't quite see it in the photo, but the Order of the Forsaken's waiting up there as well. So they're possibly going to get multi-charged. If you've seen my previous games, my Ogres have always been the ones getting the charge, because they've had that movement bonus, the speed 6 as opposed to speed 5. But in this game, my opponent has all this cavalry, so I don't really have the ability to outpace him, but he also has a lot more ranged units than I do, so I can't sit and wait for him to come to me either. So I felt like I just sort of had to advance and do what I could. On the other side of the board, a general advance as well. This one's even worse because I haven't had any of my goblins available to charge those knights. I shoot the knights, the Order of the Redemption, with my shooters. They do 2 damage. I fireball them, and this is a fireball 14 spell, and I do not do a single point of damage. I fluff the roll. Brotherhood turn 2. Once again, the Swain archers move up, and they shoot my boomers for 1 damage. And lots of stuff starts to happen. So that horde of warriors does get double charged as I expected, and they take 1 damage from the spears and 13 damage from the Order of the Forsaken. And so they rout, they're gone. 200 points flushed down the drain. 215 actually, because I gave them that Brew of Haste. Yeah, that was a waste. Yeah, should call it Brew of Waste. Okay, so we also have the damsel. She can see those two-handed warrior regiment in front. She shoots them with her lightning bolt, which is lightning bolt 5 by the way, and does 4 damage. The siege artillery gets 4 damage in on the other regiment of two-handed warriors as well. So that, I'll just say at this point, of 3 shots the artillery has made for him, he's gotten 3 hits. Pretty good for a machine with 1 shot hitting on a 5+. Anyway, Order of the Redemption charges the goblins, does 6 damage and routs them, just as I'd sort of expect. And then the scouts, they sort of move in around the side to get close to those giants. And that's sort of what we're looking at after the combat there. On the other side of the board, I get double charged with my berserkers from the Order of Redemption and from the Pilgrims, and the Standard Bearer also goes into my other berserker regiment. So the one charged by the Standard Bearer, they only take 1 damage, but the other one, they take 13 damage and they are routed. We also see the Exemplar of the Hunt. He tries to weasel around the side because he wants to get in and charge those shooters, which I do not like one little bit. And that's what things look like after combat's tidied up. So we can see where we are right now. This is the end of the second Brotherhood turn, and I've already lost more than a quarter of my force, and he's lost nothing. So I'm not feeling too good about that right now. I feel like I'm already at an uphill battle. So, Ogre's turn 2, let's see if I can claw some stuff back. Well, I'll certainly make a go of it. Grokagamok makes his premiere combat. I've never gotten him into a charge before, never had him on the table, but he gets in and he does 14 damage to that unit, bringing up to total 16, and it routs. So he, costing 260 in 1 turn, knocked out a 290 point unit. I was rapt. I was very happy with that performance. My Warlock also, he advances to try to get out of the charge range of those knights if they had survived, throws a fireball and does 3 damage to the Exemplar. The shooters ping off 1 damage onto the Pilgrims. The Berserkers charge the Standard Bearer to do 5 damage and they waver. Moving along, the two-handed warriors and the Standard Bearer double charge into those Spearman regiment, and the other regiment of two-handed warriors charges the Spear Horde. So the regiment's wiped out, but the Horde takes 7 damage and stays. And you can see that the Order of the Forsaken there, they've pivoted after their last combat in such a way that they are going to be joining the fight over on the other side of the table, perhaps against those Berserkers. The Boomers are getting in on the fight as well. They do 4 points of damage to the Order of the Redemption, bringing them up to 6. And then my Giant gets in, do 4 damage to the Scouts and rout them, which I was pretty happy with. I have exposed my rear. It doesn't look like it in this picture, but the Giant has exposed his rear to those archers. In fact, he exposes it more after the combat because I pivot him to face the knights, because I don't want to recharge from them. But I figure that those Swain's archers aren't going to be too much of a problem to him. And this is what the board looks like. This is over on the left. You can see that Grok Agamok is looking to have a crack at those pilgrims next, maybe the standard bearer. The warlock's still going to be throwing fireballs at that exemplar, and I'm feeling this side of it's going okay. I'm just worried about those Order of the Forsaken running around. And so this is what it looks like now. So in that one turn I clawed back 610 points, which I'm pretty happy with. So at this point I'm feeling like the game could go either way, but I'm really sort of going to be leaning on my giant and on Grok Agamok to be doing my work for me. Brotherhood turn 3. Now this made me happy. Both of the lobbers, the siege artillery, and the mage all fire at my red goblin blaster to try to remove the threat. All of them miss, which that just pleased me to no end, I'll have you know. As predicted, the Swain's archers charge into the rear of the giant and they do 3 points of damage, but he's okay. Then some bad things. The Order of the Redemption charge into one of my two-handed warrior regiments, and the Horde of Spears into the other. Both of them are out. They take a lot of damage. Even with the rerolls, they're out of there. So this is how it all looks afterwards. I've got my giant and my boomers trying to face off against 3 units, and 2 of them are very big threats. However, I also have that red goblin blaster in a very good spot now, which had advanced there the turn before. So my opponent here is sweating bullets at this point because he does not know how bad that's going to be. But I'm hopeful maybe I'll be able to get rid of those knights, which would be an absolute boon. But let's see what happens. And also on the other side of the table, I get triple charged into those berserkers from the pilgrims, from the standard bearer, and from the Order of the Forsaken, and they are just, you know, they evaporate before a hail of damage. So the Ogre losses continue to pile up a bit, another nearly 400 points added on, so I'm quite a bit behind now. 980 points of mine stuff dead versus 610 Brotherhood stuff, so once again I'm behind, going to try to catch up next turn. So, Ogre's turn 3. Red Goblin Blaster, and it goes kablooey! So, good and bad, I rolled a 6 for range. That was good enough because I got to, catch those spear horde into the explosion. However, that also meant that I was going to get my own boomer regiment. And for every single unit in the explosion, I did 7 points of damage. So the Order of the Redemption, the Spear Horde, and the Boomers all took 7 damage each. Now, with those knights, I think their total could be 13, and that's what it would be with all the damage from the previous turns, but they do have Regenerate, and I neglected to record how much damage they'd been regenerating over the game. So they may have less total damage than 13, it could be a lot lower. The Boomers, as I mentioned, moved up, and they moved up so that they could shoot at the damsel. With 9 shots breath weapon, half of them hitting, only 1 point of damage. Still, it was enough to wave the damsel. The giant turns around and he starts to beat on those Swain archers and does 6 damage to them. And that's how things are looking. So, unfortunately, everything survived the Red Goblin Blaster, and I am not in a happy spot. So, the Boomers, they're protecting the rear of the giant. On the other side, things are not looking much happier. Grok Agamok gets in and he does a ton of damage to the pilgrims and routs them as well, which makes me very happy. The Warlock runs around to fireball those Order of the Forsaken, only does 2 damage, and the shooters only do 1 damage. The shooters have been quite disappointing this game, and so they've really done a minimal damage to those Order of the Forsaken there. And that's just another pretty picture. Brotherhood, turn 4. Okay, so this was just tragic. Grok Agamok, after beating 2 big units to a pulp, is then targeted by both of the siege artillery which both hit and both do big damage, and he just routs. he was doing so well as well. So, man, it hurts to look at this. It's actually funny. Those siege artillery, one shot each, 5 to hit. In 7 shots they make this game, 5 of them hit. Those artillery crews, they need a pay rise. They are doing work this game. Anyway, so that really hurts my effort because Grok was most of the punch I had left, apart from the giants. So I'm really neutered at this point. Speaking of which, those knights come through and they charge into the boomers and they do 21 damage and they're routed. There was no hope of them ever staying. The spear horde, they charge into the standard bearer, do 9 damage, rout him and then turn around. The swain archers, they only do a single point of damage to the giant and he doesn't mind. Other side, they pretty much, see, you can see Grok there, but he's actually, he does get shot off, but the Order of the Forsaken and the Exemplar, they fly into those shooters and they rout them as well. So, after a couple of turns, the Ogre losses have really stacked up, whilst I haven't gained any more ground against the Brotherhood. I'm 1,000 points down. What can I say? It's looking really bad here. I've lost the game at this point. I'm just going to try and scratch back as much as I can. Also, as you can see here, you can see that the Exemplar in the picture. Just look at how finely painted that coat is on the horse. All the little, diamonds with little fleur-de-lis in them. It's gorgeous. Alright, Ogre's turn 4. Right, so I decide that I'm going to move up my Warlock and shoot at that bloody trebuchet. Try get it off the board, get a little bit of points back and some revenge. Also, all those models up there on the top of the screen, they're off the board. They're just being put there to be out of the way. My giant beats up those swain archers and then turns around to face the knights. And then it's Brotherhood turn 5. So the Order of the Redemption fly into that giant rather, and beat him to a pulp. I don't know why I didn't include him in the picture, but I didn't. But all you need to know is that he took 12 damage and routed, and that was sad. Then it was Ogre's turn 5. So my only remaining unit there is my Warlock, and come hell or high water, he is going to get revenge on that trebuchet. So he rolls up, and he fireballs it, and it finally decides to die. Which is my little solace after quite a brutal game. But then it's Brotherhood turn 6, and my solace is taken away. My poor Warlock takes another 23 damage and he routs. So that is it. That's everything I have off the board. So the result, I killed 870 points all told of the Brotherhood, but they destroyed me to a man. Like 2,000 points they got from me. So well done to my opponent. Absolutely gorgeous army there. And I hope you enjoyed. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.